Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are on the world. This is another edition of New York by Night, the venue of the vampires of the Camarilla. We find ourselves this night called upon by Tobias Budge, who very gently, after getting a very professional nudge by one of his clan members, gave and sent out information to every member he knows of that there's going to be a meeting in the so loved Battery Park. It's going to be at a special occasion, something specially prepared by Mr. Hardcastle, who felt it was appropriate because interesting decisions will have to be made. Tonight, the Ventru will not be meeting in the park itself, but at the castle, Castle Clinton, a very old historical landmark within New York City. A castle with a history which is predating Ellis Island. It is round, almost completely circular. It is high, thick walls, and in front of it there's a man waiting. The man who nudged our harpy. The man who's a natural leader and has the blush of life, Mr. Hardcastle. And we start the scene as he waits tonight to receive his honorable clan members.
The Budge will arrive. He doesn't like to keep people waiting. He will come into the room. I believe that he will be searched or something like that will happen. Or well.
No.
You see, he arrives with his cane. He has cane in his hand, and he enters the room. Hello, Mr. Hardcastle. It is a pleasure to see you again.
Harpy Budge, thank you very much for coming. And he offers to shake a hand.
He gives a firm handshake.
I've got a room set up and cleared for our use right over here.
Thank you so much.
The room is Spartan for a meeting of people of wealth, but it is functional and secure. The walls are plain. The table is a simple conference room table, like many millions across America and other third world or first world countries. The chairs are nothing fancy. They're just regular folding chairs like you would see across dozens or hundreds of rooms and cafeterias across the country.
The less is not expected by you, Mr. Hardcastle.
It is functional for now. We can dress it up later.
The next guest will arrive in style as ever, in a stretched limo, making noises which can be heard over the area itself. It's an open roof limousine, and a person is sticking out holding a glass of champagne as music is played from the car itself. Laughter is coming from the chairs, the door opens, and the young Mr. Brooks stumbles out of the car, adjusts his clothing somewhat, smiles back into the car, seems to either throw something back into the car, and then turns around, straightens his clothes, straightens his face, then walks all the way up to the entrance of the castle.
Max will, of course, greet Mr. Brooks as he approaches. Mr. Brooks, thank you for coming. Offers a hand in shaking.
The hand is indeed grabbed and shaken with two hands, a very warm handshake. As Mr. Brooks says, I wouldn't want to miss this meeting. A pack of wild wolves would never stop me.
Well, let's hope nothing so drastic happens.
Mr. Brooks simply smiles, then says, I assume that you have made this area available for our entry?
Yes, right over here, if you'll indulge me for a moment. Same setup as before. Mr. Budge is already in there, I assume. And like as mentioned before, Spartan but utilitarian and secured.
That's the way we start. Much room for improvement, and we will. Thank you for getting us so very soon situated. Much appreciated.
It is my pleasure and my honor.
Mr. Brooks will then enter into the room, and he will assume a position wherever the place is. At this moment, still the position he normally takes at the head of the table, if there is one. If it's a round table, he will take a position opposite of Mr. Bud.
It's a rectangle, 6 foot by 3 foot. Standard. Yeah, standard.
One at the end.
Yeah, standard folding table. I believe we have one more coming.
I
Mr.
believe the only person we still miss is Mr. Braddock, and I've heard about a person named Claire who also needs to, or who is invited, I assume.
He is invited. She is invited.
Right.
She
Well,
is invited.
Maybe
There you go.
Mr. Braddock is never late.
she is from our clan. I have talked with her sire. She is who says she is. But I don't know why she...
I've never seen her. I always expect her. I hope she will have the chance to either meet with the prince or meet with the clan, especially Primogen when it can happen. Otherwise, her stay in the city might be shortened.
That would be unfortunate, but understandable.
Well, the prince is a stickler, what I've heard, for traditions. And I understand if hospitality is not met in any way, that he does not shun to send you away staked and in a box.
Well, you're totally right, Mr. Brooks. I have no words to say to that, actually. I would like to defend my clan member, but it's the second time she misses the meeting.
Very, very unfortunate. Especially during meetings interesting as this one. Mr. Butch, while we wait... Oh, right. Before I continue, I believe our last guest has arrived.
And let's see, the tallest, probably the thinnest, and definitely the ugliest of the Ventros is indeed showing up as well, walking to the scene, as is his usual method of transportation as far as the kindred in the city now. Gentlemen, I apologize for being late, the traffic being what it is.
Very understandable, Mr. Butch. Mr. Braddock. But please,
Braddock. Thank you for joining us. Max will walk over and offer to shake a hand.
And the handshake will be returned. Reddit is yet again wearing the long coat and the hat and the gloves.
I know the chairs are not Italian leather, but they will do in a pinch.
Well, they are definitely a step up from where we used to have our meetings. If you go by the seats themselves, I imagine.
Building for now, so if you will, let's take our seat. I believe we are the only ones going to be able to attend.
Tobias takes a seat after you said that.
Max picks up his smartphone, taps out a message, and anybody with like keen eyesight or is looking over Max's shoulder or what have you, basically it just says, "Sergeant, everyone's arrived. Keep an eye out." Then he presses send, and then he takes a seat. Well, thank you all for coming. I know the notice was short for these kinds of meetings, but I feel that it is a topic that needs to be addressed by all of us in one, or as many of us as can be. Mr. Budge was kind enough to introduce me to Prince DeWitt, and proper introductions were made and acknowledgement was given. And for that, I thank Mr. Budge and Mr. DeWitt for extending their hospitality. However, and while that is good news, that is not why I called you here. I asked everybody to come here because Prince DeWitt has decided it is time to seat a Primogen, specifically a Venture Primogen. As for the other clans, I do not know if he is allowing them to sit. I would imagine he would, but he gave us explicit permission, and Mr. Budge can back me up on this, that we should have a Primogen choice to him very soon. The sooner the better is the impression I got from him.
Budge nods to the clan after he said that he can acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Mr. Brooks will straighten up in his seat. This is very good news.
Now, if you would permit me, I would like to just go ahead and announce my candidacy for Venture Primogen.
Mr. Brooks will look about the room to see if, how people react to the fact that one of the newest members in the city stepped up to be candidate. I'm gonna roll a set of dice here. It's gonna be perception, empathy, to see how people react to this. It's one success.
Can I get manipulation subterfuge to resist that one?
If
Charisma
you want,
manipulation,
if you want to resist it, go ahead. There's
Yes.
nothing that's stopping you.
Would somebody be kind enough to roll me 7 dice?
Sure, go ahead. I'll roll the 7 dice for you. It's a shitload of successes. I believe 5 successes. Oh, sorry, 6 successes.
Okay,
Oh,
so we're not playing poker with him ever again. Never. We are never playing poker with you. That or some prospects forward.
You see, Tobias is not surprised. He doesn't have a negative or positive thing to it, but he looks at you because you are the clan elder. Mr. Brooks, may I speak?
Go ahead. Share what you want to tell us.
I was there when the Mr. Hardcastle meet with the prince, and I believe the prince liked them a lot. Prince exactly said that he reminded to the prince that there's something that he actually missed. That was that the Mr. Hardcastle understood that our prince was the soldier, and he saluted him. I believe the Mr. Hardcastle is Prince's good. Like, I believe that he made a good impression on him.
Well, impressions are interesting. I assure you that will be very handy when we want to do what we do best. I do wonder, however, and this is nothing personal, Mr. Hardcastle, if the prince really likes you. I could understand that he might think highly of you, but also expect highly of you. I surely hope you are ready to meet those expectations.
I feel that I am. And since you've got the successes, when Max made his candidacy, the Max had a poker face on, of course, as you would expect. But you also feel that Max is like thinking that he's what's a good way to put this? Max is sure of himself. At least he thinks he is. And Max knows that. That's kind of the vibe you get off him, because Max isn't wearing his colors on his sleeve. He's not trying to hide it.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of confidence.
Mostly because he doesn't like hiding anything from clanmates. That's kind of, something he doesn't like doing.
Well, you're not Mr. Braddock, so I can understand. Sorry, Anyway, Mr. Brooks will then smile and say, well, according to what we do best, I say we vote, either be it a closed vote or an open vote, whichever you gentlemen prefer.
I believe the precedent for venture meetings is that the youngest speak first, or vote first, and the eldest speak last.
That's correct.
I have been a member of Clan Venture for over a decade. Well, right at a decade. I don't know anybody else's history, but if Mr. Brooks here is the acknowledged elder, then I believe he's the one that has the privilege of speaking last.
I believe I should speak the first.
Max turns to look at Mr. Budge.
Mr. Budge says, I vote yes for you, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you. Mr. Braddock?
Sorry, we have a little problem here.
Your daughter doesn't want to.
I support the nomination. However, I suggest some precautions be made in case our Primogen ends up slandered by the Harpies, for instance. It seems the Bruja have something against us.
Bruja have always had something against us. However, I do find wisdom in your words. Were I to be nominated as Primogen, of course I would appoint a whip, and with this board's permission, I would also appoint Mr. Budge as a whip, if need be, if that is acceptable.
I'll make some subterfuge move here. Let me see where my perception sucks. Yeah. This does not. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4 successes on showing absolutely nothing. Oh, 3 successes in showing absolutely nothing. Hopefully that he does not agree at all with that decision.
What's my perception?
Perception, empathy.
Empathy. Oh, I only got 4. Well, I might be able to get it. What the hell? Haven't rolled any dice yet. 2, 3, 4. Roll. Survey said. Oh.
Defender wins.
That's true. You're the defender, right? Or are you
Yep.
the aggressor?
I'm the defender.
You're the defender? Okay.
Could I have a perception empathy, please? 5
7
dice.
dice still, I believe, huh?
No, 5. Just because
Fine.
I'm not rolling
Oh.
subterfuge.
There you go. That's 2 successes.
Oh, not enough.
The Tobias waits for everybody to become silent, and then says, "I'm honored, Mr. Artcastle, but I believe my duty as a harpy might become problematic for the prince, as he has said before."
No. Well, that is also true. Then, well, we wouldn't want to aggravate the prince or cause any concern, so perhaps Mr. Brooks then could speak for the clan in my absence.
Mr. Brooks will have to make. I'll have to make a conscience roll. Crap. Do I or do I not want this as Mr. Brooks? Okay. If I have a success, I will not accept. Oh, 2 successes? Yeah, definitely. Mr. Brooks will actually stand up and say, I know I am in the city a very long time, and I know my reputation precedes me when it comes to dealing with the things within the Camarilla. However, it also taught me a very valuable lesson. And the lesson is that although I want to be of assistance anywhere and anytime, especially my clan, I do not believe that the honor of leadership as a whip is something I could do properly because I have so many things that I do keeping my contacts and my influences going. Now, if my Primogen tells me that he still believes that I am the best choice, I will accept. However, I would ill advise against me, and I would rather propose Mr. Braddock. I know this is something out of the ordinary for people of our blood to not want something. But I have learned very harsh lessons in leadership, and I hate to disappoint my clan members. Therefore, my state is here.
I see no reason to force someone to take a position they do not want or cannot have, and I would have no issues with Mr. Braddock.
If a whip is needed for the clan, I will not decline the clan that service.
It's not exactly a yes, Mr. Braddock, or a no.
It will be my privilege to accept the position if, after a small discussion with yourself, Primogen Council, we see eye to eye on how things should progress and advance. It would be unfortunate if shall we say, our personalities and way about going things would collide even with the best of intentions.
No. I don't foresee that being a problem. I mean, we all have agreed to put forth a united front to the rest of the clans anyway.
Yes, it's merely a precaution before accepting fully that. if there is something that possibly comes up within a few weeks. Might you accept a temporary nomination? If within 2 weeks you're not, if you have grievances, I may be requested to step down without a loss of face.
Very well.
Mr. Brooks will tap on the table. It's an old gesture of agreeing with something said without saying anything.
Max nods. So, all in favor of me being Primogen?
I'm sorry, yes, I forgot. I still need to cast my vote. We are already discussing this as if it is so. I personally am very happy to see that you already holding some favor in the prince's eye would step up. I believe you will agree with the choice that Ventru have made, and if the prince is happy, then the Ventru are happy. Or now.
I also understand that my role as Primogen is also wholly dependent upon this board as well, and my ability to execute said duties, of course.
Personally, to be honest, Mr. Hardcastle, I'm very eager to see what the prince has when it comes to the idea of having a Primogen Council and how he will use it, as he so eagerly disbanded it at the beginning when he entered the city.
Yes, I've kind of brought concern to me too when I heard about that, but I assumed he had his reasons.
Tobias again raises his hand. He doesn't like to interrupt people while they're talking, so that's why he raises his hand for asking permission to speak from his clan elder.
Mr. Butch will not nod this time, as he, although he is in status clan elder, since somebody just has been chosen, succeeds him.
When Mr. Duet has arrived, the city was having primogens from clans where there's only one members. There were
Yes.
3 members from one clan, 2 members from another clan, 1 member from one, and 2 member of the other clans. So he disbanded the Primogen Council because he doesn't needed one. The city didn't need it one.
You're saying he disbanded it because it was ineffective.
Yes, it was. It was. The unnecessary would be the wrong word, but there was incompetence among the city, and I believe there are still incompetence among the city. But well, it's maybe just my way of thinking.
Incompetence will be among any city, Mr. Budge. The question is, are those who are incompetent ruling the city, or are they not? Well, if the prince has felt this way when he entered, it's up to us to make sure that he feels like there's a change of wind. I believe Mr. Hardcastle can help us change that wind for the better.
Thank you. Very well. Then I thank this board for seeing faith in me and my lineage in granting me this honor. And with that issue settled, I would like to bring up the Prince's decree of his coterie formations, or at least discuss his decree about the coteries.
As you wish.
He has said that the coteries he wished to form be of one of 4 types. And Max goes and checks his notes. Pause while I look this up.
Sentinels of the first edition, the influence coteries, the mortal influence coteries, if you will, and thirdly, the war coteries, if I'm not mistaken, sir.
Yeah, I believe his choice of word was enforcer on that one. Yes. Since I brought up the topic, I'll just go ahead and put out my 2 cents. As a young little fledgling in Berlin, I was taught the intricacies of enforcing masquerade, and with our clan's innate gifts, I also have some mortal influence as well. So I was proposing that if you would pardon the expression, a Ventru sponsored coterie of mortal influence and sentinel coterie, consisting of myself and 1 or 2 of us.
My Primogen, if I may make a suggestion,
Yes, please.
if we are willing to put our wings out in the city and be involved in every single part of every single thing, like we are very good at doing, then might I suggest trying to make sure that we put the best what we have in every coterie, but also at the same time make sure that the coteries are filled with at least 1 member of us in every coterie. Now I know this might be tricky, since I do not believe we have many who are specialized in war. However, if we could convince a war coterie that we might have, or one of us might have something to add to that, that would mean that we control yet another part of information, which can, or I'm sure which will help the clan in the long run, sir.
Well, as Mr. Bud and the Prince know, that I was a West Point graduate and served in the Army for around 12 years. But I was not a frontline combatant or some kind of special forces commando or anything of that nature. So I am not a stranger to violence and combat, but I feel my talents lie elsewhere, specifically in the first tradition enforcement or the mortal influence. But there are 3 other people. There are 3 other Ventru here as well. But I do agree we should have at least 1 war coterie that one of us is a part of.
Well, it's only my opinion, my Primogen. I'm sure others will have one as well.
Mr. Braddock, you've been rather quiet. What's your opinion or take on this coterie situation?
I do agree to extent to the benefits of having a Ventru in each coterie. However, I would also point out to the possible benefits of having, shall we say, a Ventru favor majority in a coterie that is key for the clan's interests. For instance, influences would be in that category. And I, looks around the table, do recognize that most of us would probably be well suited or at least not ill-suited for any coterie involving mortal influences. So I'll put myself forward that if the clan is willing to sponsor my training towards it, I will see if I can't make myself an asset for the war coteries, if that's the decision of the clan. I will require some training on the field, but war coteries occasionally do benefit from having an intelligence expert, if you will.
At this moment, Mr. Braddock, although I applaud your courage into joining a coterie of war, specialized in war as such, I believe that when it comes to those who are martially more suited, the one who stepped forward during our last engagement into hand-to-hand combat was Mr. Budge. You would need less training, I guess, when it comes to martial affairs. And I'm absolutely sure you could be used, or be put to use for the clan, is a better word, in as well as a sentinel the first, or an influence master, as well as I am. It's up to you. Do we want to put our best foot forward?
Mr. Budge will look at the Mr. Brooks and he will answer, he will say, I believe you have misunderstand my intentions in the attack have happened at the Harlem. I have stepped up because I believe that at least there should be someone there who can think while the others can fight. But yet again, if that's what clan needs, I will join that coterie.
At this moment, Mr. Brooks looks at the Primogen, who obviously knows what the clan needs.
Both strategies have merit, and a war coterie would benefit from someone who could enforce masquerade simply by virtue of just covering our tracks locally at the scene. But I believe we are better suited as a mortal influence or a sentinel coterie, and it's been my experience, such as a decade would grant me the right to say that you should always put your strength against the enemy's weakness. And if the prince has a idea that the Sabbat are coming and coming hard, then I would suggest that we put our foot forward as a sentinel of the first or the mortal influence. And I really don't see why we couldn't do both at the same time. I see no reason why we can't enforce masquerade and gather mortal influences within the same coterie. I intend to do so.
Apologize me if I'm mistaken, Primogen, but you sound as if you're suggesting that all the Ventru gather into a single coterie with this specific purpose.
Well, as was discussed at our last board meeting, all the Ventru work together for a common goal already. In a way, we already are a coterie of a sort.
Mr. Brooks will actually knock on wood again, agreeing with what's just been said.
So, in light of that, now we don't want to just all pal around and be a coterie in fact, because that might tip off the other clans and start making them jealous. envy is a horrible monster to deal with. So, no, I would not suggest this be a coterie in fact, but behind the scenes, we already are working towards that goal. So perhaps a 2 Ventru in a single coterie with whoever else we can dig up, so to speak.
I have seen the newly arrived Tremere, Mr. Alec Castellanos, being very efficient in spinning news, something that could be to the advantage of any covering of masquerade issues.
Did you say spinning of news?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I heard you right. Okay, then he would be a sentinel, and seems like a natural fit, even though I'm leery of any Tremere, as any of us should be.
Aye.
Say that again?
I'm just simply saying that I have noticed strengths of others as well as our own strengths. And if we must connect with something or someone, my Primogen, then we must consider the Tremere nonetheless. They have always, in some way, stood next to the Ventru when push came to shove, same as the Toreador. I remember.
Might I suggest there's a solution in view of these things?
What is this tree's name? Also, so I can write it down in my notes. Jesse?
Sorry, what? I didn't understand.
What is this Tremere's name?
Castellanos.
If I might suggest as a way of working this through, since Mr. Bodge has the recognition of Mr. Brooks as a possible candidate to a war coterie, I could provide Mr. Hardcastle with some backup into an influence sentinel coterie, making the perhaps endeavoring myself to working the details out of the Tremere. I have occasionally worked well together with them, and they are a lot more beneficial in a coterie working with you than in an opposing coterie working against you.
Knocking on wood again.
Fair enough.
And that would allow Mr. Brooks to, shall we say, let the coteries come to him and request his patronage, if you will.
That sounds like a plan. Is there anybody else you think we could trust? Or at least work with?
At this moment, the sheriff has proven himself to be influential on the streets, but I'm not sure if he is of our level of intelligence, if he thinks forward like we do. He might be a liability, but he could be useful for a little while.
Yeah, what's the sheriff's name?
The sheriff's name is Mitchell Limey Rigby, but most people call him Mr. Lime.
And the sheriff seems to have something in his between his teeth as it comes to the, shall we say, Ventru endorsed hobby as represented in this table by Mr. Bodge.
Mr. Bodge looks up. He has something for myself, I'm sorry?
He seems to have something against you. He, in my presence and hearing, at least once has gone out of
He
his way to question your lack of presence in a public meeting.
he has sent me a text after that I haven't entered the Elysium, and I have said I was in a meeting for understanding more problems for the Staten Island. Not everybody has understanding of who is helping him and who is digging his grave. But well, I'm sorry, Max. I'm going to meet you. Oh, you put my on. No, not. Yesterday, Mr. Castellanos has become harpy because the as far as I understand, Tremere Limey owed a boon to Tremere Richter. So actually, right now we have somebody who is trying to be head of harpy, just like me, and just like what the clan wants from me. And he's a newcomer. I would admit that I have the upper hand, but I would like to ask something from a clan. In the other meeting, we have said that they will support each other in clan if needs be, and I am going to throw a party for the kind and the kindred. And I would like to Clan Ventru to be there to show that they support Tobias Budge as future.
Did I understand you? Did I understand correctly? The Bruja Harpycom sheriff appointed as third harpy from the Tremere, Castellanos.
Yes.
He did that without talking to you.
Yes, and I heard from the prince that I was going to be the head of harpies in the next meeting that I have with the prince. But yet again, I don't want to cause another war against Mr. Castellanos. So what I want is, again, that the Clan Ventru is there, and Clan Ventru is supporting their harpy.
Might I, at this point, make a suggestion?
I'm all ears.
First of all, I myself, I'll not speak for others, will make myself, if at all possible, present at your party. I mean, the opportunity for new friendships alone is well worth a minor request. And as it comes to the Tremere, if Mr. Hardcastle and I approach this Tremere and ask him if he wishes to join in a coterie with us and possibly one or maximum two others, that would mean that the Ventral will have you, Mr. Bunch, as our loyal harpy, and we'll still have, shall we say, coterie links with the Tremere harpy, which should mean that we can get this Bruja harpy out of the picture.
I thank you for your advice, and I deeply appreciate it, Mr. Braddock. And when it comes to Bruja Sheriff / Harpy, I don't know, does our Primogen and yourself know, but I believe that Mr. Brooks knows that he would like to control all of the coteries that he has said in the meeting.
He did say that, indeed. I was there. I asked him a question if he felt like he could take on a role in every single part of the city. He was very confident in saying he was. I personally have seen this happen before, and I found most of them found themselves quite overextended after a while.
Sounds exactly like what would happen.
It would be a dreadful, dreadful thing if the sheriff found himself overextended and has to abdicate not only the harpy position but the sheriff position as well, wouldn't it?
I think he might end up having more problems than power. But then again,
In any other situation, I would agree with you in a heartbeat. But if we are in a state of war, we need a strong sheriff, not one who's pulled in 99 different directions. And the
If you
Sabbat
want-
is one of them.
my Primogen, if he wants to pull himself apart, it will only show that he was incompetent, and another one will be chosen anyway.
True, but how many is he willing to drag down with him?
Not the Ventru. That's the most important.
Well, I concur, but right now I'd like to have as many bodies between us and the Sabbat as possible. Non-venture bodies. But I suppose if he wants to self-destruct, then by all means we just show him the way and let him blow himself up.
Well, you are correct. I don't want him to blow up half the court by doing dumbass. So, yes, it's up to you if you want us to proceed in either trying to help Mr. Limey overextend or not.
If the Sabbat is at our doorstep like the Prince fears, let's see if we can tone him down. I mean, let's not go to any great lengths to tone him down, but if he's willing to listen to common sense and logic, I know that's a stretch for Bruja, but if he's willing to listen to common sense and logic and tone it down, then, you know, we can leave him be. But if he doesn't want to, then by all means, empower him to blow himself up.
All right.
My
Consider-
Primogen.
Consider I will use wisdom first before I'll pull the trigger.
My Primogen, as I have said at the last meeting, his place that he controls over is already attacked by Sabbat 2 times.
Has he repelled each attack? Or has it been beaten?
He repelled each attack, but the attack was... I think that the Sabbat didn't show his true colors at those attacks. I believe they were just trying to test him.
That is a possibility. Your first attack is always a test attack, and your second attack... Did they attack the same way twice, or did they try different paths?
They tried different paths. First, as far as I know, they send the gangsters who brainwashed gangsters to a place that he was in. And then they send shovelheads too.
They're still testing.
Okay, so they tried two different methods. All right, so those were definitely those were penetration strikes, so they're probably going to send something bigger and nastier next time. Find out if he has any plans on repelling a third attack. Because if the first one were just mortal gangbangers that had been brainwashed, and the second one were actual embraced shovelheads, the second one is probably going to be scaled up, or it'll be a combination of the two. That'd be my guess. If I was leading this, which I can't think like an insane Sabbat lunatic, but if I was leading this, it would either be a combination of the two, or it would be a serious hitter. So find out if he needs any help from us. Maybe we can rack up a few boons.
Well, I did try that. but he seems very reluctant to giving out boons because he already owes me one, and I believe that left a foul taste in his mouth. But I kind of let him remember all the time.
Bruja. No, I didn't have to be a Bruja.
Has the sheriff made any disparaging remarks of anyone else? Has he made us some friends, in other words?
What do you say? I'm sorry. Oh, see again.
Asking if the sheriff has made any disparaging remarks of others, or in other words, made friends for us.
I believe he is in a coterie.
No, he didn't say that, Amachan. He said if he made any threats, if he threatened the clan or any of its members in any way, saying that he doesn't like them or something.
No, not that I heard of.
I do believe I'm not on his list of favorites, but I don't really care, to be honest.
Well, he may not like us, but in a foxhole, everybody's buddies.
Well, my idea is that whether he likes me or not, sooner or later he will find himself looking for the Ventru, and he will find us. But like I told him previous time, refuse me once, shame on you. Refuse me twice, it's not shame on me. I simply say the price goes up. I know what I can do. I've been doing it for quite a while. I'm bloody good at it.
Well, if he wants to renege on any boons, I'm sure our harpy will have a word with him, or the prince will, or both.
I don't care which way he ends. The moment he kindly, and I say that with a smirk, refused me, I remember his name, and I will remember it as soon as I watch over him as he suffers himself to be stupid enough to be overextended, because I do believe he wants too much power. And although people think power comes with responsibility, most of the time power comes with extra enemies.
Actually, a valid point there, Mr. Brooks. I have a question. Who are current hounds?
I believe current hounds is Elena via Gangrel, and I believe Ghost and now Mr. Bishop of Clan Bruja.
The ghost has the same power, just like the sheriff.
She is also sheriff?
No. She has the same influence type.
Oh, really? I didn't know. I always considered her a bit of a useless part of the Camarilla.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems an awful lot of like the Bruja are making a power grab for the, shall we say, the implementation of the law, with the sheriff being a harpy as well, having at least two of the other Bruja in harpy, two other Bruja in the hound position, and the Senesalf being a Bruja.
Yes, I think our Primogen, or let's say a representative of our clan, I would like it to be the Primogen, could talk to the prince or to the sheriff and voice his concerns. Maybe one of the two will listen. The problem is, who do we Who do we advise to be hound as well, or who do we demote to not being hound?
Perhaps something to keep an eye open for the moment and not bring up.
I don't want to be too late when we enter and say something happened.
There is a Malkavian fencer. New arrival.
Can we trust it? Fencer, Malkavian, man or woman?
I am not sure.
At this moment, you get a frown.
No. Like when you said man or a woman, that's why he said I'm not sure.
Yes, and you'll still get a frown.
He or she looks both.
One of the Kaufman's sort, eh?
I believe that she is Dr. Kaufman's sister.
Oh, well. She did make herself popular, I think.
She did. I have speak with her sire, and she has represented herself to the prince in front of me.
Really? All right. Well, maybe we can get that person to become hound and have our support in that. Although I question if we really should. Well, maybe it's too far away. Maybe we should indeed just look and see what happens, and if it's necessary, intervene.
She owns a place where she is going to make it a club for the fencers. Maybe that's a way to make sure that she is in our pockets.
You want to say that you want to help her set it up?
I can if she gives me boon, and then try to be more friendly with her. But to be honest, Dr. Kaufman is, like what I understand from the relation, Dr. Kaufman is close with the sheriff and with the Samuel Bishop, so maybe she will become like that as well.
I have an idea. If she wants to set up shop in New York, then she could obviously use the support of the venture, especially in getting the money together if she doesn't really have the funds yet. If we would be able to support her and get the funds and the necessary papers in order, me being a lawyer, and I'm sure others have similar skills at this table, we could speed up getting that business happening for a small price, of course. And first we could choose to make it monetary, say a percentage of our company. But at the same time, we would be buying not only a percentage in the company, but also maybe a trusted and maybe later a loyal friend. Boon free, because friends don't owe friends boons, they owe themselves favors. Favors can go a long way.
Her name is Miss Alex Wond.
Won't. I'll see if I
Alex.
can arrange. Could you arrange me a meeting, Mr. Budge?
Of course, it will be handled.
I would like to meet with her in private so she doesn't feel overthrown by the venture.
I will.
Wonderful. I'll try and set it up. Maybe it will work, maybe it will not. But I will have a private talk with her and maybe see what we can find in our newly beloved choice for Hound.
Now, let me ask a point of clarification here, just so I don't look like an idiot in front of anybody else. Hounds report to the sheriff, correct?
Yep,
And the sheriff reports to the prince?
obviously.
Okay. Just making sure the hierarchy was the same.
To the prince or to the seneschal, which also happens to hail from the Primogen clan?
Aye, that's true. The sheriff also answers to seneschal if the prince is unavailable, or if the prince simply has told the seneschal that she should take care of the business.
What's the seneschal's name?
She has but one name. Her name is Rose.
Rose. Okay.
She is very influential within the Camarilla.
Blue skin, almost, if not relatively tall, black eyes, if memory serves. The Tremere have been somewhat curious of her exact lineage.
But the prince has made her seneschal, and so there must be something that's very convenient or very useful about her.
I suspect that might actually rankle the Tremere a bit.
Well, the Tremere are always offended by something somewhere. I have met that Victor twice now, and I believe not once he has showed me that he did anything else but have a bad mood.
Oh, he was quite charming chess company.
Ah, you played chess with him.
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, maybe he could grow into a contact.
It's a possibility. However, he has since refused any further games.
Ah, too bad.
He seems to think that myself winning him twice in a row was a bit uncaught of me.
Yes, sometimes you must lose in order to win, but I'm sure it will work in the end. Is there anything else my Primogen would like to discuss? You're still muted, Max, in case you answer. I take by your silence that there's nothing further on the agenda.
I have one more question, and this one's directed mostly at Harpy for court procedure. Since we've agreed on a Primogen, should I deliver the message to the prince, or will you deliver it for me, or what is the best way to handle that?
I believe that it should be you who should say this to the prince. Maybe he has something to talk in private with the Primogen of Clan Venture.
Very well.
I suggest taking in, along with that, to at least the first portion of the meeting, at least one other went through to, just in case, confirm the situation. Which, I do apologize, does bring up a point by which I hope our Primogen doesn't get caught flat-footed, so I think he should be brought up to the speed. Your situation, Mr. Bunch?
Oh, right.
Buck smiles and he looks towards the Primogen.
Well, don't leave me in suspense. What?
My Primogen, I have arrived to the city 6 months ago.
Okay.
And when I arrived, that I am going to keep this short. My bloodline is not from Clan Venture. I am from Clan Ravnos.
Come on, this isn't a place for practical jokes. Come on now.
He continues. I have.
Please, let me first get manipulation. Manipulation, empathy. Like 4, 5, 6 dice.
How many dice?
6.
I'm rolling it for you. You have 4 successes. If you have a specialty, let me know.
Not applicable. However, the deadpan look Leonardo is
Okay.
currently giving to the Primogen is out of some of the best comedies you'll ever watch.
Some of the best what?
Deadpan being the straight face, which gives you the notion of nope, no jokes happening here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so continue.
He says that I have arrived, and the sheriff asked me that who I should be represented by if I wanted to be represented in the Camarilla. And I said there was a lady Sheridan in that time who was the clan Primogen, and I have seen her as a businesswoman, and I have as always a businessman. So I said I would like to represent by her, and she accepted me. She has left, and our clan elder. I'm all ears.
Max will look at Mr. Brooks, and he'll go, he's serious, isn't he?
Oh yes. I was presented with this problem as soon as I entered the city. I was not happy, but as you know, and as you will understand, I'm not someone who throws away something I find useful. I'm not sure if everyone knows that Mr. Budge is not a truly bloodline Ventru, but he possesses skills neither of us do. So I have not made him a Ventru because I do not want him to be a Ventru. However, I did make him an honorary member of our clan here in New York to make sure that we stand next to him whenever something happens. And he has been useful to us ever since.
Well, as somebody at this board pointed out, it would be better for them to be working for us than against us. And since he's a harpy as well.
And if I may, Primogen?
Go ahead.
Mr. Budge, to my knowledge, has been nothing but the most loyal friend of the clan so far as I have been aware of him.
Well, then, yeah, then he will have our protection and sit on this board as an honorary member.
Thank you, my Primogen.
Mr. Budge. And nobody outside this boardroom knows this.
When I have first arrived to the city, there are some people who knew what I was. I don't know that they tell their friends or not.
We must assume that some do and some don't. So I suggest leaving it in the middle. I do advise Mr. Butch not to use the name Ventru or call himself a Ventru before the prince or before members of the court or anyone really. Not that he must deny being aligned to us, but if an elder would visit the city and hear Mr. Budge claim to be a Ventru and then later find out he is not, that would end dramatically for us losing face and for Mr. Budge losing.
I would imagine so. Well, if the masquerade isn't broken, then don't break it. Wise man once told me. And
You know,
And if he's been an asset so far, it would behoove us to keep that asset, I would think. I will make arrangements to reintroduce myself to the Prince as Primogen, as I have the support of this board. Basically, hanging a question out to, like, we all agree, correct?
Just one more thing. If you do not meet, or only meet the Prince, then present yourself to the Seneschal as well, just to make sure that she does not feel slighted.
Ah, okay. Well, it would be rather rude to skip the Prince and go straight to the Seneschal first, but I see your point.
No, you go to the Prince first, and if the Seneschal is not there when you meet him, tell her as well later. Prince first, Seneschal second.
Sure. But you have a point. I will do so, time willing. And is there any other business we need to discuss?
Oh, something very key. Domain. I
Right.
think the Prince has opened that discussion up now.
I believe the correct order was Seneschal, court members, including Primogen, who can ask for personal domain. After that, coteries, and after that, clan domain, and after that, personal domain. If memory serves.
So perhaps we better find a few choice spots just in case someone beats us to it.
I think it's wise to do this or meet with the Prince and talk about this before more coteries are formed, which means that the Prince will only take into account one coterie or two coteries who started forming before the rest is formed. I think speed is of the essence to make sure that we have what we want.
Might I make a suggestion here?
Obviously.
If our Primogen is getting the introductions, if you will, handled with the Prince, wouldn't it, shall we say, show efficiency, the forethought of the clan, for our Primogen to bring forward our personal requests and save the Prince some time?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he would find that to be too forward. However, it does show efficiency, and I do believe that the man likes efficiency.
Very well. If I have a few ideas of my own, but if you guys would like to speak up, Mr. Brooks, I believe you have a few choice domains as well.
That's correct.
Actually, I would assume you would.
You assume correctly, sir. I do have a few locations in mind which I would like to add to my domain. I'm not sure if they can connect with each other just yet. I will give you a list as soon as I can with addresses that I deem worthy of being domain. I do, however, want to suggest to anyone who sits here at this table, if we keep together as a clan, even within the area of choice, then we might be more efficient in defending it if the Sabbats might try and see if we can see something.
I agree.
It'll be easier to close off one street than five.
A wise infantryman once told me, the harder it is for the enemy to get into your base, the harder it is for you to get out.
Very true. It's information. Do with it as you wish, my Primogen.
Thank you. I'll make arrangements to meet with the prince. Try and have your choice domains forwarded to me as soon as you can. In other words, write it down in Facebook. And when I meet with the prince, I will present this as well.
Very well. Is there anything else people would like to talk about?
Everything I need to discuss has been discussed, and I thank this board for it.
Then by all means, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure and a privilege.
As always,
Mr. Brooks will rise up from his chair. He will nod or actually bow towards the newly chosen Primogen.
Max will rise as well, as Mr. Brooks does, as an elder of the clan is leaving.
Same.
Same.
To honor the kings who went before us, and to honor the bloodline that flows through our veins. Praise to Mr. Hardcastle. And I bid you all a very good night.
Good night. Good evening,
Good night.
Mr. Brooks, Mr. Braddock, and Mr. Buddage.
Good night.
As Mr. Brook walks out, he'll type a message on his phone to call off for his ride, wherever it may be. Parties, probably. And if this is it, I suggest we close this scene. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, players, for playing.